So I'm not gonna lie, this story, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting indeed. This story dropped late last Saturday night that there has been a secret, yes, a secret meeting of conservative Brexiteers and Remainers at a location involving not only activists but also business leaders as well about the failings of Brexit. And what's been discussed at this meeting, we don't know yet. Like I say, I'm doing this video on Sunday afternoon. Um, of course, this video is going to be coming out sort of Monday afternoon, so there might have been news by then. But to say that we've had this meeting is pretty wild. But this goes on and does track with a lot of other interesting things we've been hearing in the Conservative Party that you've had Brexiteers who've said, "Well, yeah, actually, now we've done Brexit, it's damaged the economy. I can see why." And we've heard, if you remember a couple of weeks back, Brexiteers freaked out when a junior minister briefed the Telegraph that Sunak might be willing to do a Swiss-style deal with the EU, probably involving lots of alignment deals on different areas and different industries. It's entirely possible. Like I say, this is the Starmer plan, what Starmer wants to sort of go and do. But if you've got this, and you've now got at least Brexiteers recognizing that their project has failed, and not only that, but they are now meeting with key figures in the Remain campaign as well, this could be interesting. What could come of this? I certainly don't know, but this could prove to be very interesting. That's for sure. That's very, very much for sure. So let's dive in to see what we've heard about this so far. But before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, do remember to hit that bell as well, or ring the bell, shall we say. But, feel free to do whichever. Of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, my one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, the YouTube thank you button. And of course, the Pony Club as well. So, over we go today to The Guardian to have a look at this and their coverage of this. The title of Revealed. Secret cross-party summit held held to confront failings of Brexit. Again, fascinating that this has actually happened, but what is going to be the consequence of this? We don't know. So, an extraordinary cross-party summit bringing together leading Leavers and Remainers, including Michael Gove and senior members of Keir Starmer's shadow cabinet, has also been held in high secrecy to address the failings of Brexit and how to remedy them in the national interest, the Observer can reveal. So this is very significant. And the fact that they're trying to keep this secret, or shall we say, try to keep it secret, probably from like the hard fanatical Brexiteers, kind of interesting, because Michael Gove, even himself, someone who was a committed sort of, Brexiteer from the beginning, it's sort of varied to see how hard a Brexiteer Michael Gove really was. I mean, I don't think he's as hard as Brexiteer as someone might be like Jacob Rees-Mogg, maybe. But yeah, this meeting and what could come out of this could be fascinating. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in this meeting. So, the two-day gathering for some of the country's most senior Labour and Tory politicians from both sides of the Brexit debate, together with diplomats, defence experts, and heads of some of the biggest businesses and banks, was held at the historic Ditchley Park retreat in Oxfordshire on Thursday afternoon, evening, and on Friday. Documents from the meeting, obtained by the Observer, describe it as a, quote, private discussion under the title, How We Can Make Brexit Work Better with Our Neighbours in Europe. Interesting. So that's a bit of a bizarre way to put it. Oh, How can we make Brexit work better with our neighbours in Europe? Well, there's only one way, and that's you do alignment deals to keep in line with Europe. Because you may remember just a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the fact that there has been a big meeting in Brussels recently to decide sort of the future of green tech and investment and sort of the rules and regulations that are going to happen around that. And as we said in that video, it doesn't matter. The UK is going to be caught in the EU's regulatory orbit. It is just completely and absolutely inescapable, even though we are out of the European Union. For any business wanting to do business in the EU, will still have to follow European rules and regulations. It is just completely unavoidable if they want to trade with Europe. So let's see what we've got here as this continues. Those in attendance from the pro-Brexit side include the former Tory party leader, Michael Howard, former Tory Chancellor Norman Lamont, and former Labour Europe Minister Gilsa Stewart, and one of the leading figures of the Leave campaign. And among the prominent Remain politicians present were the Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy, Shadow Defence Secretary John Healey, and of course the former European Commissioner and Labour Cabinet Minister Peter Mandelson, who acted as chairman. From the Tory Remainer camp, the ex-cabinet minister and long-serving minister for Europe, David Langdon, also attended. The non-political attendees included John Simmons, chair of the pharmaceutical company Geico Smith Kine, Oliver Robbins, Goldman Sachs, managing director for former chief Brexit negotiator for the government from 2017 to 2019, Tom Scholar, former Treasury Permanent Secretary, Angus Lapsley, NATO Assistant Secretary General for Defence Policy and Planning, and a confidential introductory statement for those at the meeting acknowledged that there was now a view among some at least that so far the UK has not yet found a way forward outside the EU, with Brexit acting as a drag on our growth and inhibiting the UK's potential. Oof. Interesting. Okay. So potentially here you have the Tory party waking up to the fact that, actually, there is no way outside because there was no thought put in to what Britain's position would be. We can't be a regulatory superpower. We're not going to be a trading superpower either. Again, our armies and sort of defense aren't enough to really express, hard power. We were always very much a soft power nation, but even Brexit has damaged that potential. So, as we said, what could come out of this meeting is going to be interesting, and we'd be very interested to see what other also stuff could be discussed in this. So, a source who was there said it was a constructive meeting that addressed the problems and opportunities of Brexit, but dealt heavily on the economic downside to the UK economy at a time of global instability and rising energy prices. The main thrust of it was that Britain is losing out, that Brexit is not delivering. Our economy is in a weaker position, said the source. It is about moving on from Leave and Remain, and about what the issues we now have to face, and about how we can get the best position in order to have a conversation about EU and about the changes to the UK-EU trade and cooperation agreement when that happens. So, remember, a couple of weeks ago, we had the rumors that Sunak was going to do this Swiss-style deal. We've got Labour, who wants to do more alignment deals with the EU. Could we see that happening sooner rather than later? It's very likely here. So Gove, who co-led the Vote Leave campaign in 2016 with Boris Johnson and Stewart, is understood to have made regular contributions, including opening an informal conversation on Thursday night with a source saying he was, quote, very honest about the shortcomings of Brexit. Ooh, interesting. While still believing it would prove the right decision in the long run. Again, Brexit is not going to be a never just a short or medium term thing. This is a long term thing. You cannot escape the sense, the pull and the gravity of the EU and its single market. We cannot escape it. So, in terms that will anger the ardent Tory Brexiteers, the summit document said that while on the European side there was, quote, little interest in further wrangling over Brexit and little time being devoted to the relationship with the UK, there was also clear that Europe, as well as British strategic interest in a productive and closer relationship. Stating that, quote, rejoining the EU will not be on the agenda, the summit papers nevertheless stressed that the UK EU have, quote, shared interest on containing Russian aggression, developing new sources of energy, and building major technological companies with the base capital on our side of the Atlantic rather than just the US, as well as a common defense interest. So, this is what we've been talking about signing these closer trade relationships. And then at that point, once you've done these, you just go, well, okay, that's Brexit. That's as best as it is ever going to be. While you have the hard wingnut lunatics insisting that no, 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 we've got to push even harder. We've got to get rid of all this nonsense EU stuff completely from the agenda. We're already headed back in, and I think this meeting will go down in history as a starting point for us rejoining the EU. I really do think this is a big turning point. The fact that we have had this meeting, that you have had big names like Michael Gove there. So yeah, very interesting. It also raised questions about forging closer links with the EU on tackling organized crime, illegal immigration, and defense, and raised the possibility of a joint EU-UK policy towards China, asking what are the prospects of a fully coordinated policy on dealing with China. The unresolved matter of the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is also a main UK-related subject, currently occupying EU officials in Brussels, was also central to the talks. This highly unusual cross-party nature of the gathering of the Brexit opponents and the seniority of those who agreed to attend reflects a growing acceptance among politicians in the two main parties, as well in business leaders and civil servants, that Brexit is currently in its current form is damaging the UK economy and reducing its strategic influence in the world. Concern is growing at the top of the Labour Party. That it poses a real threat to the success of any future Labour government unless the problems, such as increased trade friction, can be addressed. The Office for Budget Responsibility has predicted that over the 15 years from 2016, Brexit will reduce the UK's GDP by 4%. In effect, calling for a cross-party consensus on Brexit, the summit papers referred to the need to move on and, quote, the current mix of antagonism and nostalgia to the excitement of what the future could bring for the UK and for Europe. There's also said that finding solutions was more urgent than ever because of the global unrest, supply chain fragility, and inflation. Of course, we probably wouldn't be having these problems, or at least we probably would, but not as bad as they are now if we remained in the EU. So, for those such as Gove who campaign to leave the EU, there is also a clear interest in ensuring that Brexit is not viewed as a failure over the long term, even if this means conceding that there will need to be closer agreements with the EU. And of course, as we've said before, if we have these closer agreements, then why aren't we in the single market and customs union? Why aren't we, again, fully members of the EU? This is the path back. It always was, and we are now seeing this being discussed. This is incredible. So much of the focus of the meeting was on how a Labour or Tory government would use the scheduled review of the Brexit Trade and Cooperation Agreement to, quote, reduce some of the current frictions that have seriously damaged the UK exports to the EU in particular. Labour, which has said that it will not take the UK back into the EU, the single market, or customs union, has, however, already committed to using a 2025 review of the TCA to try and reduce trade barriers. According to the timetable of the meeting, the opening session was headed by title of How to Make the Trade and Cooperation Agreement Can Be Optimized and Now and Amended Later. How might trade and services between the UK and Europe be better managed? Well, you do alignment deals. It's as simple as that. It's not rocket science, guys. It's not rocket science. Uh, if you want to trade with the EU, you have to play by their rules. And if the UK wants to diverge, then that means more barriers come up. That's the simple fact. If they are serious about this, and we'll have to see what certainly came out of this meeting, whether we will hear about what went on this meeting and how soon, I don't know. But the fact that you've got senior people like Gove saying, yeah, Brexit actually has hurt the UK economy is very, very significant. Very, very significant. We cannot understate that. And the fact that he is conceding that the UK should do deals or alignment deals with the EU, that's also an incredible statement from someone who was a key leader of the Brexit campaign. So how this plays out going forward, I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, this could be pretty interesting. But trust me, expect there to be an almighty Brexiteer pushback on this. That is for sure. They are going to cry foul because there's one thing they love to be, and they love to play the victim cards to the Brexiteers. So look out for Brexiteer response to this. I know Nigel Farage has already tweeted out saying that this is Brexit being sold down the river, and this is just proof that the Tories never really believed in Brexit. So yeah, we'll have to see what comes of this. But yeah, this is interesting. This is very interesting indeed. So yeah, as always, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, links to my Patreon page, one invitation link called Buy Me Coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I will see you all next time.